Hey nerds, Farmer Jesse here. Welcome to Growers Daily, your daily dose of ecological farming insight. It is Tuesday, June 9th, 2026, and today we're talking about the importance of fun in farming with a sports analogy because I just can't help myself, yellowing onions, and proper cultivation, a field demo because I just can't help myself. So let's do it. All right, everyone, welcome to Till Tuesday, your weekly reminder that you can get living soil, compost, and potting mixes from the bona fide nerds over there at Till Soil. Check out Nathan on the Composter Podcast, Season 4, Episode 3, or head to tillsoil.com to learn more. I hope your weeks have been going super well so far. Like I said, as promised, I guess, I took yesterday relatively easy to continue my dehydration recovery. It was supposed to rain all day, which would have made that a lot easier, but then it didn't rain, pulling the famous 100% chance gag the weather loves so much. So that made it a little harder to not do something. So I mowed a couple beds to clear them and tinkered around a little bit around the farm, worked on indoor stuff, office stuff, but mostly I recovered. I did do that, I think, successfully. I mean, to the weather's credit, it did technically drizzle for a little while, which does count as rain. So it didn't miss the mark entirely on the 100% chance, but there we are. However, there is another chance rolling in this afternoon, so hopefully that amounts to something because now we're back to being dry and needing rain after having been way too wet and not needing anymore. So anyway, just like that, that's how it goes. What are you all up to? Let us know, or better yet, upload a 20-second farm video clip to Dropbox or Drive and share that with Farmer Mike at no-tillgrowers.com. Always super fun to see what you all have going on out there. Oh, and don't forget, literally set your reminders now, that tomorrow we're going live for our June live show at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wednesday, mark it down. Always super fun. Okay, so as much as it pains me to do, I'm sorry, I have to talk about soccer for a second, but I swear, I genuinely swear it relates to farming and gardening because at least for farm business owners and maybe parents raising kids on a farm, I think there is something to it. Real quick though, a little story. So at the end of May, a team named Paris Saint-Germain, PSG, won their second Champions League competition in 2 years. For the uninitiated, this is a competition between the best teams in Europe and a huge achievement, honestly. It happens that teams repeat, but it doesn't happen very often. But I was struck by something their coach, Luis Enrique, said after the game. He was speaking with a soccer legend, and again, I would swear this will all come back to farming, but he was speaking with the legend Thierry Henry, who commented that Enrique's team was playing with such confidence, and he hadn't seen a team play like that in a really long time. And the coach, Luis Enrique, who again had just won the biggest title in European soccer for the second time, and one of the biggest in sports in general, said, quote, "It's a simple idea. You only have to have fun," end quote. Enrique went on to talk about how obviously you need to take players who have a lot of technical quality, but that he wants players who have fun and he wants his fans to have fun. Indeed, fun, joy. In America, we often equate fun and joy with unseriousness, but here you have a coach at the pinnacle of the sport saying that fun is the key. Fun is not a lack of focus or concentration or understanding the significance of the moment. Rather, fun is an essential tool to Enrique. Fun is why we do a lot of what we do and keep doing it, right? Fun is often what drives us to get better at something. And for sure, anecdotally, as a soccer coach, the teams I've had who've been the most successful are the teams who just enjoy playing together, who just enjoy playing in general, with parents who also have fun. Okay, so how does that have anything to do with farming? Well, perhaps in several ways. First, if you have employees or children working on the farm, they should be having fun. They should be enjoying themselves, taking pride in their work, but smiling while they do it. Farming is hard, but fun makes it worth it, makes you want to do that work. A culture should be created around making the farm a joyful place to be, a place where you come not just because you are getting paid, but because it is fun to be there, because it is enjoyable to do the work, even the hard work, even the hot work, even the heavy work. That starts, of course, with you, the boss, having fun, not bringing the stress of business ownership to the field, keeping your mood upon the employees or children. Find ways to leave the stress in the office and enjoy the fields yourself. Enjoy the wash pack. Play music if you can. Think of topics to discuss while you cultivate, while, of course, stressing that, of course, the employees or children have to learn to work while they talk at the same time. That's important. But anyway, try to relate to what they're passionate about. outside of farming. I'm not suggesting you allow employees or potentially children or whatever to aimlessly goof off or anything like that, but maybe you do allow them time to be creative, to collaborate with you on ideas. I see some farms where their employees do goofy TikToks and stuff, and it just looks like fun to work there. Perhaps also asking them what they would like to do or learn about, any special projects they might want to try, etc. Sometimes making things quote unquote fun is often just about having fun yourself. What can you do to make the field a more enjoyable place for yourself? Another place where this idea of fun is a tool that can come in handy is at the farmer's market. Customers like happy, healthy, rested farmers. So you and anyone helping you at the table should be rested and should want to be there, but should be having fun. Maybe that's creating little games around, the market display, seeing who can create the most interesting one, or maybe you can challenge yourself if you don't have employees to do something new with the market booth every week, getting creative with signs and displays and all the things. Sometimes I think it's about asking ourselves, what sounds fun and how would I incorporate that within my farming? Like, I enjoy soccer. I enjoy photography. Those are fun things for me. So how can I create some time to take photographs in the morning and enjoy that? I love that. It makes my day better and also encourages me maybe to clean up some stuff, which also ultimately brings me some joy to look at a clean farm and gives me more stuff to take photos of. Then, of course, with kids on the farm, if you want them to farm beside you, you have to make it attractive, fun, enjoyable. I've seen a lot of kids who grow up on farms and swear them off when they're adults because it's just a memory that holds a lot of stress and not a lot of joy, not a lot of fun. Ditto sports. It's not enjoyable to go play a game where everyone is screaming at you from the sidelines and your parents scold you all the way home for your performance. That is what they attach to those things, and that is what your employees will attach to your farm or your children will attach to their farming. And you don't want that. And to be clear, I don't have the answer for what all this looks like. I'm still trying to figure that out for myself and for my kids and for my family because, sometimes I succeed at making them interested in the work and sometimes I don't. Sometimes I do make it stressful, but I'm trying to figure out how not to do that. But I guess my point is largely that, again, having fun is not the opposite of creating a good work culture or of training good employees or of raising good farm kids. It's an essential ingredient. It's the salt. I listened to a podcast recently with Racing Louisville's head coach, Bev Yanez, the year she won Coach of the Year. And she said the year before, when they had not even made the playoffs, she focused 70% on tactics with her team and 30% on team culture. After that disappointing year, she flipped it, and that team made a great run, and she won this Coach of the Year award. How? Culture. 70% culture, 30% tactics, fun, making it enjoyable, making it a collaborative place to be and where everyone bought in and wanted to fight for each other. Anyway, I'm sure there are a million and one ways to make sure you're having fun, and I'd be curious to hear what you all think that looks like. But I do think it's important to remember fun, to embrace it, to treat it like it's a serious tool in the longevity and success of your farm. And I also think it's really important for you sports parents and coaches to see how important it is because do some adults think sports are basically the military, which may ultimately be holding their kids back and turning them off of sports permanently, but that's for a whole other day. Anyway, what do you all think? Let us know. And otherwise, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it was all yellow, the onions. Is that how the lyrics went? I think it's close enough. BRB. Today's episode is brought to you by Grown By. Grow smarter with Grown By, the farmer-owned cooperative. Grown By is the platform for online sales of everything, custom and traditional CSAs, halves of beef, flower bouquets, wholesale to restaurants, and now Grown By supports in-person sales too. Their new app, Grown By Register, you can supercharge your market and farm stand, finally bringing together your online and offline sales and customer data. Grown By is proud to make local food accessible by processing SNAP benefits online and in person right within the app. Grown By helps you put your best food forward. Schedule a demo at coop.grownby.com/no-till. That's coop.grownby.com/no-till. All right, back to the show. A quick and loving reminder that if you, the listener or viewer, are enjoying this podcast, getting even a small amount of value from it, consider supporting our work over at patreon.com/no-till-growers. I will try to get to questions from everywhere that questions come in, but I will always get to your Patreon questions. Now, today's Patreon question comes to us from Patreon member Andrew Ott, who wrote, quote, "Hey, Jesse, glad to hear your voice back at full power." Obviously, this came in a little while ago. "I put in 150 onion starts that I began from seed on February 1st indoors. I hardened over 3 days and then put them in the bed 6 days ago. First 2 days, they were flopped over. Day 3 through 5, they perked up nicely. Today, when I went to look at them, all had yellow tips. I planted into a broad-forked bed topped with compost. I had not fertilized at all aside from the compost. I have not watered either. We have had several rain events this week, and temps have been hot, 80 degrees followed by 90 degrees Fahrenheit last couple of days. What should I do to rescue my baby onions? Long day variety. I'm in Northwest Connecticut, zone 6B, end quote. And okay, so this one came up in April. And again, I'm slowly getting caught up on questions and I am effectively doing it, but slow. But I did answer this one when it came in because they put in some alarm bells, which is how this thing works. And basically a lot of times, especially when it happens that quickly with the onions, it is a very basic transplant chalk issue. Now, it could be a lack of nitrogen issue or an excess water issue, but usually transplant chalk is the culprit and the onions do recover. Onions are really resilient, but they can be a little tender when it comes to the roots being messed with a little bit too much. I get the yellowing a bit sometimes myself, and you can see the remnants of it in my onion crop this season, but they bounced back nicely, and so too will likely your onions. Basically, they will start to regrow out of the center and put new leaves and then slowly grow and kind of push those yellow leaves to the side. Again, it's something we see sometimes, and although obviously I would prefer, not to go through that shock the way I do my starts, it often means I'm having to separate soil blocks and or pull excess onions out. So it does happen. Does it set them back? Almost certainly a little bit. So to avoid that, consider a different tray setup for next year to manage the shock, like maybe wind strips or even cell trays could work a little bit better. That would be a good place to start, and just be gentle with them as you plant them. Now, another thing it could be, but is probably a little bit less likely to happen that quickly, is some sort of rot. Onions in wetter soils / climates can succumb to several different fungal diseases when they're itty bitty, but the easiest way to check that is pull up a few and just see if the bulbs or roots are rotting. If not, and they look mostly fine, then it's probably just the shock. It could also be a nitrogen deficiency, but that's less likely to me given that you mentioned the compost, and baby onions are not the hungriest of crops nutritionally. Excessive moisture is probably the hardest one to deal with, and it could be that. If it's excessively wet, even if they manage to escape without getting a pathogen, the onions will not be able to adequately photosynthesize during that wet period, which can slow them down and may cause some yellowing. There is only so much you can do about the excess water in situ, like once those little onions are planted. If it doesn't stop raining, there is no easy way to improve drainage on the fly. In fact, broad forking was the right call there, and dealing with excess water is a long-term soil management thing, not a crop management thing. But with the broad forking, you should be all square there on the moisture. Anyway, I hope they made it through, and I hope there was something helpful or at least reassuring in there for the rest of you who may be freaking out. Did I miss any explanations? Anything you all go through with your onions that I didn't cover? I know thrips and onion maggots and that sort of stuff can be an issue, just rarely that quickly. But anyway, let me know. Otherwise, we're going to take a quick break and then go on a field trip, a literal one. Be right back, but in the field.
Lost in the cosmos, sending a song with silver spoons, a day start.
All right, on Tuesdays, I like to give a little tool shout out, but today, what about a little technique shout out instead? I want to talk a little bit about proper cultivation. So what we're going to do, and apologies to our podcast only family who may not find this as enriching as our YouTube crowd, but what we're going to do is we're going to go out to the field and join last week me in a little bit of cultivation. Specifically, we're going to talk a bit about cultivation technique, because if you're going to be cultivating, like you have any sort of weed pressure, you should be doing it correctly. Otherwise, you might be wasting that time. And for many of you, you are working with deep mulches and maybe you don't have to worry about it. But if you have even a semblance of exposed soil, or you find your compost has some weed seeds in it, this is going to come in wildly handy. Now, I will say, remember last week how I referenced a video that it looks like it's 5 minutes long or something and took me an hour or something to shoot for various equipment and user errors? This is it. And it's not perfect, but hopefully it gives you a little bit of an idea of what proper cultivation can look like. And of course, I'm doing this just with a hoe. There are a ton of cultivation equipment like finger weeders and all these different things. I'm talking the bare bones, simplest approach. So yeah, anyway, with that, here's younger me in the field, or technically the tunnel. Enjoy. Okay, so if you're watching on YouTube, you can kind of just see a bunch of basil here. Pretty young plants. I've just started harvesting them, so they're going to start bushing out. But here's the thing, they need a little cultivation, right? This is going to be in here until it freezes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cultivate this real quick, and I'm going to show you how I do that properly, because there are ways in which to do cultivation wrong. So one of the ways is to waste your time cultivating. Really, I should only have to do this once, maybe twice. What determines that is how well I do my cultivation. So in this case, I probably could use a wider stirrup hoe, but I've got like a 3 or 4 inch one here. And I'm gonna go, and this goes for no matter what, if you're doing this on beds or just single rows, you go between the crop, below the crop, and then above the crop. And on beds, you can do all of them at the same time, right? You could do all the betweens at the same time, go all the way down and then all the way back. Or you could do just one row at a time, since there's only 3, just to make sure you're being thorough. Basically, how that would look is I would do this either down the whole row or do it in between each plant. So basically, I would go between the plants, like so. Try and get as close to them as possible, right? Below the plants, and then above the plants. Okay, so that's one option. You could do that on a bed system. Obviously, if you have 6 rows or something, you'd have to do that with every row. So the easiest way to do that on a bed system, when you have multiple rows in the same area, is to go between the plants first, right? All of them. So if I was doing 6 rows, I'd go between all of them, just like that. And I'd try and get as thorough as possible, right? You're trying to make sure to get all the weeds. And then you'd go, above them, right here, between them. And then lastly, you just move beneath them and keep going. And you do that all the way down the row. You do that from one end to the other. You wouldn't just do like 5 plants and then turn around, right? You do the whole plants, all the rows, and then do all the bottoms, all the tops. Yeah, and you just have to be thorough. Like, you can't leave any weeds not killed, because especially in a long season crop like this, they will grow up through here, and then they may produce seeds where you can't even really see them. So that's how you do it for bigger plants like this. If you were going to do something like lettuce, it would be the exact same thing. You wouldn't have to be quite as thorough, because it's not going to be there as long, but you still need to be thorough, because you're also weeding the soil, right? You don't want to have to deal with this later on. Anyway, I also want to show you how I would do this for, say, carrots, like something that's small, it's in a single row. So let's skip over there. Okay, so for the bigger plants, I'm generally going to use a stirrup hoe. For the smaller plants and the ones that are more precision based, I'm going to use something more like this collinear hoe. And basically, there's nothing much to it, right? You'll see there are some weeds within the actual row, but generally speaking, I'm just going to start at the bottom. And there's a little bit of, I've got a grass pathway here, but I'm going to go below them, right? Between each of the rows, really carefully getting all these weeds. If I see some in the middle I'll get those too. That's lettuce, just from the last crop. And then I'm just going to go back and forth with this collinear hoe, trying to get in between each of the rows. But I'm not going to do this just in a small section like what you see here. I would do this each individual one. I would go all the way down the row, and then I would turn around and come all the way back. So I'm only doing this on like 7 or 8 feet for this section, but generally I would do all 50 feet or 100 feet or whatever it is. And then for the stuff in the row, I'll either just sacrifice a little bit of carrots, which I don't like to do, but it's okay because it's usually pretty thick, or I'll have to come through and just weed the middle of the rows by hand, which is not a big deal if you've done a good job beforehand with weeding. That's the idea. Hope that was helpful. I know it probably was not very fun if you're listening to this on podcast form, but hopefully it was fun if you're watching it. Yeah.
All right, I hope you enjoyed our little field trip. It is weirdly difficult to film stuff in the field even still, after like 10 years or so of doing it. Cameras overheat, the shot is not actually that framed up well, etc. Or maybe I'm just not very good at it, which can also, all of that can be true. Anywho, by Till Tuesday, you've been a blast. Don't forget, No Till Growers is a nonprofit 501c3, so donations are tax deductible and greatly appreciated. It means you can write them off. If you'd like to shoot us a little money, you can do that, and then you can write it off at the end of the year. Please make sure to like and subscribe and or follow wherever you're getting this podcast. That is an easy way to help us out as well. Enormous thank you to all of our show sponsors, and if you'd ever like to sponsor the show, you can reach out to Farmer Michelle at notillgrowers.com. Like I've been saying, the summer's like the prime time to advertise, and for some reason, all of our advertisers want the fall and the winter when we don't have as many listeners. So I would get in on this summer thing. Anyway, you can shoot a message to Farmer Michelle at notillgrowers.com. Big thank you to Michelle. Big thank you to the No Till Growers Board of Directors. Huge shouts to Willie Breeding for the theme music, Mike Hilbert for the production help and editing, and my wife Hannah for absolutely everything in the world. Also, shouts to Epidemic Sound for the background music that you can hear. drink very much of my tea. It's maybe because it's hot. Pick up a hat or a copy of my book, The Living Soil Handbook, at no-tillgrowers.com to support this work. Big thank you to everyone over at patreon.com/no-tillgrowers, where at a certain level, or if you just bump up from one level to another, or you sign up in the month of June, you get a shout out on the show. So big shout outs this week to Paul Longo and Lance Lindsay. Paul Longo and Lance Lindsay. These are very novelistic names. These could be the names of the stories, but in this week, it's actually not. You'd be surprised. So in this week's story, we're going to catch up with an older gardener named Lynette, a small-scale gardener in Arkansas, deep in cotton country where post-harvest cotton debris blows around the roads like lost snow. But Lynette doesn't grow cotton, doesn't care about it. Lynette doesn't grow veggies, doesn't grow herbs or flowers or fruits or any of that stuff. Lynette's crop was something, let's say, altogether different. But that is for Thursday, because we're live tomorrow. But anyway, that's for Thursday on The Garden of Life. That's not a very good title. Lynette would hate it. Anyway, thanks for watching and or listening. We'll see you all live tomorrow. Bye.
Electric home.
Tired of your car insurance rate going up, even with a clean driving record? You're not alone. That's why there's Jerry, your proactive insurance assistant. Jerry compares rates side by side from over 50 top insurers and helps you switch with ease. Jerry even tracks market rates and alerts you when it's best to shop. No spam calls, no hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Switch with confidence. Download the Jerry app or visit jerry.ai/Libsyn today. That's jerry.ai/LIBSYN.